So here we go then, we're about to get round 15 of the 2023 GT Cup Championship underway. Hugo Cook there on pole position with James Wallace alongside the two young, fast, rapid chargers on the front row of the grid. One in an Audi, one in a McLaren. 20 minutes are on the clock because it's a sprint race. And as the lights go out now, they charge their way up towards Copse Corner. Tom Roach is going to take the lead of the race from the second row of the grid. The Welshman carves his way through the order, stays within the confines of the circuit, I think almost there as well, and picks up the lead of the race. Chris Murphy running very wide in the BMW in the background, but what a start from the Welshman that was. Lights went out, he nailed the start, Rich.
I wasn't expecting that, I really wasn't. That was really good to see.
Brilliant stuff. Now now Hugo Cook, I should say, in the Audi is going to want to try and see if he can get a good tow coming out of Chapel and down the Hanger Straight. You can see James Wallace weaving around in the background at the wheel of the McLaren. We usually see James out at the wheel of a Mercedes, but that Mercedes raced in Portugal last weekend in Portimao, and therefore has only just made it back to the UK, so there isn't time to re-prep the car back in the workshop. But the leading three are certainly pulling away, aren't they, from the fourth place car, which looks as though it's the Ferrari in the hands of James Owen. It was quite a topsy-turvy grid, wasn't it, Rich? Because weather conditions for qualifying were slightly changeable, that's to say the least. Yes,
lots of tyre changing going on, and to see some of the GT4s ahead of the GTCs and GT3s is pretty unusual.
And for the garage that you're more than interested in, the team that runs you, or was running you for the last few seasons, Greystone GT, Andre Borodin didn't get the best out of the weather conditions at the wheel of his McLaren, but Phil Carter in the drier session in Group GT8 went really well. Spin there, and that's Seamus Jennings that's had the spin. Full 360-degree spin, middle of the track. Everybody avoids him. He needs to fire that car up quickly, though, doesn't he?
He seems to be okay. No one's hit him.
That was marginal, though, wasn't it?
Oh, and Doc.
Yeah, Doc Bush facing the wrong way as well, so the two Porsches pointing in the wrong direction. Phil Carter qualifying.
He did really well.
Great lap, wasn't it?
Really good. There was a lot of whooping and congratulations when he got back.
Close-knit team is Greystone GT. So this is James Owen. If he looks in his mirrors, he can see that he's got the Ram Racing Adam Knight Mercedes sitting directly behind him. So it's a Group GTC Ferrari coming under pressure from a Group GT3 Mercedes. And they, at the moment, will be fighting for 4th and 5th position as they come over the start-finish line. So that's the car that leads Group GTC. But Doc Bush's car still stricken in the middle of the circuit. He can't get it fired up, Rich.
That's tough. He'll be his mind will be working overtime there.
Yeah, he's only just returned, hasn't he, to the championship? Finally. So maybe a bit of heat soak on the car possibly, and now it's just cooled off a little bit. He gets going, so that's averted a safety car as we look at what's going on for the lead of the race. And Tom Roach is feeling the pressure here from Hugo Cook's Audi that sits behind. James Wallace has just dropped that little bit further back in 3rd position. In a GT3 car, you know, when these cars are as close as they are, how much aero wash do you get in the modern GT3 cars?
You definitely get some. Certainly when you're up close, you certainly do. It is a factor. And I think the leader there's got his hands full.
For Group GT8, James Guess is drawing himself alongside Stephen Walton. The Aston Martin goes through and ahead of the Mercedes. So James Guess in the Feathers Motorsport Aston Martin gaining the place. And Stephen Walton will drop down through the order. Who is leading Group GTH at the moment, I hear you ask? It is Philip Carter in the Greystone GT McLaren, the number 14 car, in 9th position, leads Group GTH. That's your teammate.
It is. I'll try not to give them too many plugs, but I'm really pleased for it. Come on, Philip.
Please don't, because you might put the commentator's curse on him. It's your first day in the commentary box. We can also see that Jay Shepherd at the wheel of the National Motorsport Academy is trying to squeeze his way through. Richard Chamberlain dived at the inside of Stephen Walton, and that's caused suspension damage to the Mercedes as it tried to turn in at what was Abbey, and the Porsche clattered into the side of it.
Yeah, it looked like it's crabbing a bit.
I mean, how difficult is it to see in these cars? Because, you know, the visibility when you've got your hands device on and a seat which wraps around you, you've got the mirrors. Do you in your car have a rear view camera?
Yes, both in the GT4 and the GT3 we have a rear view camera with a fairly sizable screen. It's just better than the mirror. The mirror is vibrating and it's small, and in the Lamborghini you can't see at the back anyway. Yeah. So you need to have a screen.
Yeah. So and if you use the mirrors, you can literally see not a great deal anyway. Yeah. So good little fight going on between Paul Bailey at the wheel of the black and Dayglow Lamborghini. He's coming under pressure from the Ferrari Challenge spec car, the number 19 car that runs in Group GTC of Dan Dazil, and that is going to be for 7th and 8th at the moment. So that's the car that leads Group GTO under pressure from the car that's 3rd in Group GTC currently. Now, Paul Bailey is a man who's been around GT Cup racing for a very good number of years. He was the Group GTO champion in 2021. He was the Group GTC champion in 2018. He also won Group GTC in 2016 as well. He won Group GTO in 2015. So the best part of 10 years there or thereabouts on and off in GT Cup, and driving a whole range of cars as well, whether it be McLarens, whether it be Lamborghinis, the Brabham, of course, that we've seen him out in, and an Aston Martin as well for a good number of years. So a hugely experienced driver. For the lead of the race, though, Tom Roach looking as though he was pulling away on this lap from Hugo Cook, but last lap Hugo Cook was the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 0.199 seconds. Now, in a straight line down the end of the hangar straight, what kind of speed are you doing, Rich? Do you have any idea as to what kind of speed, terminal speed, the GT3 cars will be doing down there?
To be honest, I'm not looking.
Okay.
I've got my eyes focused on the track.
I'm pleased. I'm rather pleased you have. That's probably the right answer. There we briefly saw Andre Borodin. Now back to the leaders, and it does look as though Hugo Cook is closing up further again over the course of this lap. So through the first sector, Tom Roach and Hugo Cook were identical to each other. They were pretty identical with each other through the second sector of the lap as well. Tom Roach very slightly quicker. The gap was 0.4 of a second, comes down to 0.3 of a second. So Hugo Cook is edging up on towards Tom Roach, but as we're now suggesting, Rich, he's now in that dirty air, and particularly through Maggotts and Beckett's. That's going to make that Audi quite difficult, is it, as he sits in that dirty air?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what he does, whether he can get him at the end of Hangar Straight. But yeah, I think this battle's going to run and run.
When we say the dirty air, what does that mean, and how does it affect the car?
It's just the air. It's just the air coming off the underside and the rear wing from the car in front, and it just creates a lot of turbulence, and it means the front aero of the car just isn't so effective, so you just get understeer.
And of course, that not only loses you time, it overworks the tyres as well, doesn't
Absolutely.
it? As well.
Yeah.
So Richard Chamberlain is into the pit lane, I'm afraid to say. You can see the marks down the side of the car where he was trying to sneak up the inside of Stephen Walton's car. And by the look of things, that's put out. Well, we know the Mercedes because of its suspension damage, and it's also put out the Porsche by the look of things on Richard's return to the championship. He was waiting for a gearbox for quite some time. Doc Bush, who had the spin, is now about to be lapped. So a quick flash of the lights for Tom Roach to let Doc know that the race leader is coming through and past. And Doc, as ever, the gentleman, former motorcycle racer, moves out of the way. Doesn't compromise either of the cars there, really. So sensible driving, saw them coming, Rich.
Yeah, he did the right thing. Those two are on a mission.
We were talking about Hugo Cook and James Wallace, weren't we? You know, two young drivers, very much in the infancy of their sports car career, who I think have very bright futures. And you said exactly the same to me as well.
Absolutely. I mean, they're both fast, great technique, very, good people to talk to, and they've got support, and they're motivated. So they've got everything. They've got all the ingredients they need to go on and be successful.
Absolutely, to try and hopefully create some professional GT careers. So Hugo Cook pressing on. This time through, it looks as though Tom Roach might have responded to the fact that the Audi was closing in his mirrors. So Tom Roach comes over the start-finish line. Recently became a father, did Tom Roach. And yes, the gap is now up to 1.150 seconds. So that's a good lap from Tom Roach. There, trudging away from the car is Stephen Walton. The Mercedes going no further. 16 minutes of the race to go. 4 laps chalked into the book by our overall race leader. And Tom Roach now at least with a little bit of breathing space between himself and Hugo Cook. So do you think that slightly slower lap from Hugo Cook was probably as a result of how close he was on the lap prior? It just overworked the car a little bit?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. It's interesting because James running third, I think it's his first race in the McLaren, second day in the McLaren. And he's doing pretty well.
News just reaches us, I'm afraid, that the race leader, Tom Roach, is going to get a 10-second penalty for a false start. We thought his start was a good one, Rich. That perhaps explains it.
Yes, because we weren't expecting it.
So was deemed to be out of position at the start, I think is the way they would officially word it. So 10 seconds are going to be added to the total race time for the number 67 car that leads overall. Now, at the moment, that would drop that car from first, not to second, but it would drop it to third place at this stage. So Tom Roach, I'm sure, will be being told that over the radio. And I suppose as a driver, what he's then got to do is drive even faster to try and overcome that 10-second penalty.
He's still got 15 minutes, so, he's got time. But that Audi is quick. That Audi is quick.
That Audi is quick, and James Wallace is quick in anything. So he regularly drives a Mercedes, but in a McLaren for the first time with 76 as the team this weekend. And sharing the car with Paul Rogers, who I think is making his debut in GT Cup. Regularly see Paul racing Ferraris, both in the UK and in Europe. There's Gilbert Yates, so he is back on board once more with Top Cats Racing for this weekend. The number 2 Top Cats Racing Lamborghini leads Group GTC now, because the car that had been leading has dropped further down through the order. So Gilbert Yates doing a very good job again to uphold top honours in Group GTC in that car. You can see the Ferrari is just behind it now in the hands of James Owen. So Gilbert Yates has managed to sneak the lead of Group GTC, but only just at this stage. It's nice to see these sort of cup cars in reality, isn't it? The Super Trofeo cars mixing it in with the Ferrari Challenge cars. I like Group GTC.
Me too. I've thought about doing it, yeah. And I love the Lamborghini, but someone today was telling me how competitive the new cup car is, so that's something to think about as well.
So over the start-finish line, this is Dan de Ziel, who at the moment is still occupying 6th position. He's got Adam Knight right behind him. Paul Bailey has now lost 2 places on that lap, so Ferrari and Mercedes have both unpicked the Group GTO leading Lamborghini that time through. Now Paul Bailey's car is a GT3 homologated Lamborghini, but it's not running the correct homologations at this stage, so they take things off like the air restrictors and other bits and bobs, which means that the car has more power, and therefore because it's not homologated to GT3 it runs in Group GTO. So it's, I suppose, an identical car to you, but just without the air restrictors, is it?
Yeah, I think he's running an extra 50, 60 horsepower. I
so
think
it makes a difference
like
then, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And that's all just by taking air restrictors out of the engine and maybe different maps and things as well, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah,
but yes, it's an identical car other than that.
So Ferrari from Mercedes, Group GTC Ferrari, Group GT3 Mercedes, Group GTO Lamborghini, so 3 different groups altogether here. So this is 3rd in Group GTC, 4th in Group GT3 and the leader of Group GTO, all squabbling over what is 6th, 7th and 8th places with 13 minutes still to go. They build the speeds again as they head onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight and then in towards the arena section of this Silverstone circuit, which I was staggered when I looked earlier on. It doesn't seem 5 minutes ago since they built the arena section of the Grand Prix circuit here at Silverstone, Rich. 2010 was when it opened.
We're showing our age.
It seems like the blink of an eye. I couldn't believe it when I looked earlier on. So Tom Roach out front on the road at the moment, but has he overcome the 10-second penalty? No is the answer. He is 6.8 seconds up the road from James Wallace, so Tom Roach needs to keep pushing. I'm sure Orange Racing, powered by JMH, will be telling him that over the radio. Keep pushing, push, push, push. At the moment, you still need another 3 seconds advantage to build over the 3rd place McLaren of James Wallace, and then once that McLaren is more than 10 seconds behind, then in reality Tom Roach would only lose 1 place on corrected times. There's Charles Dawson running very, very wide. That looked as though that was coming out of the loop and on towards Aintree corner. Charles Dawson had qualified that Mercedes, the Ram Racing number 42 Mercedes, onto pole position in Group GTH, but he is now down to 2nd in the group because of Phil Carter's progress.
The guys at the front, their pace is really consistent. They're 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, over and over again.
And how easy is it to do? You're an AM driver. We would expect the pros to be consistent.
Yeah.
As an AM driver, how easy is it for you? Do you have some days where it just clicks and other days where, for whatever reason, it doesn't?
Definitely. I'm still inconsistent, so some days I can do it reasonably consistent. Other days I'm all over the map, to be honest. But these guys, I've just been watching. You know, it's just bang, bang, bang. 2 minutes something, 2 minutes something, 2 minutes something, over and over. So these guys have had a lot of seat time. Got to do that.
And another question, because again, I genuinely don't know. Do you do much on the sim before a race meeting or anything like that?
Yes, because in my first season, when whatever it was, 21, I realised that I was probably one of the only drivers on the grid without a sim.
Right.
So Mark Hopton and I actually went and bought sims together.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a bit on the sim since then, both on my own, also with virtual coaching, people coaching me online.
And you've seen the positive results as a result of that?
Yeah.
And the great thing is you can throw as many tyres as you wanted it on the sim, can't you? And it doesn't cost you any more money, Rich.
It doesn't hurt when you crash.
There is the Group GTH leading car. So that is Phil Carter, who so far this season has had a good run in Group GTH, but hasn't had a group win as yet so far this season. So if he can hang on to it, that's going to be a very happy garage, isn't it?
I'm trying to be even-handed here, but come on, Philip, you can do it, mate. You can do it.
Well, he had a good qualifying. Was it Brands Hatch, wasn't it? Brilliant qualifying, but then the race, it all sort of unravelled for him. So I would say Phil Carter and Mikey Broadhurst, who is his pro that teaches him, are well overdue a win in Group GTH. And when we talk about the pros as well, so it's well worth just touching on the pro drivers. Yourself, you've worked with several different pros over the course of your 2 or 3 years. Who did you have in Alton? It was
in GT Cup it's been mainly John Lancaster. But I've also worked a couple of times with Duncan Tappy.
That was it. It was Duncan we had at Alton, wasn't it?
Yeah, and before I did that, I was with David Pittard, believe it or not, when I had a Ginetta.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So David, who recently won Nürburgring 24 Hour in the Ferrari in the 296, yeah. And another man that started at club level motorsport. I first bumped into David Pittard when he was racing Mark 1 Toyota MR2s in the championship that we had.
It is a small world.
So 9.5 minutes to go. The Feathers Motorsport Aston Martin in the hands of James Guess is under pressure from Chris Murphy's BMW. So that's a Group GTH Aston Martin being pressurised by a Group GTO BMW. We've also now had, a few laps ago this happened, Adam Knight at the wheel of the Mercedes getting through and ahead of the Group GTC Ferrari of Dan de Ziel. So that now means that Adam Knight is now up into 6th position. That happened on the previous lap. Dan de Ziel is down into 7th at the wheel of the Ferrari, but he will still, might have lost a place, but he's still running 3rd in Group GTC in that Ferrari.
I love that BMW. It's a proper old school racing car. It's really nice.
It is, Chris Murphy's one. I spoke to Chris. He knows full well that car is more than outgunned in Group GTO. He said, I just want to race people. It doesn't matter whether they're in my group or not. I'll just race anybody that's around me. Race them cleanly, race them fairly. But it's fair to say, it's not the most competitive in its group, is it?
No, but as you say, he just likes to go out and have fun, and he's always smiling.
He is, very much so. And not just BMWs he races, not the E46 M3. We've seen him racing Z4s and Z3s in the past. We've seen him racing Aston Martins. Borodin's off, I'm afraid. So Andre Borodin has had a problem somewhere. Looking at the angle of the car, Rich, that suggests a spin, does it not?
Yeah, I think so. He's off on a way. Hopefully he doesn't get taken out.
See the tyre marks in the background as he's left the Pirelli rubber. And of course, Silverstone is a quick old circuit. If you do have that spin, and as he'll have done, he'll have locked the brakes and skittered across the tarmac for quite some time. Those Pirellis are not going to be quite round anymore. And how much does that affect the car, particularly a high-speed circuit like Silverstone? If you get a flat spot, or in the case of Andre, probably four flat spots, one on each tyre, it's going to be a difficult car to drive.
Yeah, it makes it harder, and it affects your confidence, which means you back off a little bit. So you just lose a little bit of pace.
And Andre's another one of those drivers, like Greystone GT tend to do. They pick up on a driver, and some of them sort of get there a little bit quicker in terms of amateur drivers working with their pros to build the pace. But Andre Borodin this year, I think, is making bigger strides forward this year. He's getting there.
Yes, I've seen it. I've obviously watched him in both GT Cup and British GT, and he's getting quicker in each.
Absolutely, last time out there was a podium overall for Andre Borodin and Ed Peed at the Alton Park races. So Hugo Cook is still there, running 2nd on the road at the moment, but he is still within touching distance of Tom Roach. He is 3 seconds adrift, which means that Tom Roach is not going to pick up the win in this one on corrected times. He might lead on the road, but he's got that 10-second penalty hanging over him. However, now in 3rd place, James Wallace is now more than 10 seconds adrift of the race leader. He's 10.4. So Tom Roach at the wheel of the car that leads, the number 67 car, has done the right thing to keep pushing hard, because he has overcome part of that 10-second penalty. He would drop from the lead down to 2nd, wouldn't he, on corrected times with 6 minutes to go? Yeah,
it's a shame that the penalties happened, because it's kind of robbed us of a race, because Hugo's just going to sit there and probably just take the win.
And if he does, then they'll be more than pleased with that for Hugo Cook, who shares the car with Sasha Kakad. They have had 3 wins so far this season, so they could be on for win number 4 in round 15 of the championship, but there's still lots of work to do. 6 minutes in which to do it, traffic to deal with. That's Chris Murphy's BMW that's now been placed a lap down by the car that, remember, isn't leading overall. This Audi is 2nd on the road, but the car ahead of it has a 10-second penalty and is only 3 seconds up the road. So Hugo Cook is looking to see what he might be able to do. There is the overall race leader, Tom Roach, sharing the orange Racing powered by JMH McLaren with Simon Orange It's the car that at the moment is lying 4th overall in the championship standings coming into this race. It lies 2nd in the Group GT3 championship standings. And Tom, who, as I say, recently became a father, the Welshman.
Tom's just gone purple, so he's doing all right.
And that's important because I haven't really touched on that as yet. The grid for the pit stop race is based on the fastest lap times that are set in this one. So at the moment, fastest lap in this race would give that car pole, wouldn't it?
Yep.
3 wide, right, okay. So Tom Roach throwing caution to the wind. Phil Carter is trying to get past Jay Shepherd's Lotus, and Tom Roach goes around the outside of all of them at Luffield Corner. So he certainly doesn't want to lose any time through the back marker. Goes to show, the mindset of that racing driver and the information he's getting from the team. Even now, he's still pushing. He still wants to try and see if he can overcome that 10-second penalty from the second place Audi.
It's strange that you get your GT3 leader and GT4 leader overtaking the same car at the same time. one lap different.
So this time Hugo Cook might just get delayed by the Group GTH leading McLaren in the hands of Phil Carter. So the Audi has passed the McLaren, and they'll deal with the Lotus in the hands of Jay Shepherd. Nice to see the National Motorsport Academy back in GT Cup, and I've got to say, nice to see Jay Shepherd in GT Cup as well. Man who back the best part of 20 years ago was competing in the TVR Tuscan Challenge. So his car has been rebuilt by the students at the National Motorsport Academy, and there's contact by the look of things. That is Tom Roach that has clattered into the side of the sister car from the team, which is Russ Lindsay's Porsche. So the two teammates come together. Tom Roach out of the race, and by the look of things, with that suspension damage, Russ Lindsay out of the race.
All change.
Teammates making contact. That's the cardinal sin, isn't it?
I'm afraid it is, yeah.
I didn't see what happened, so it'd be unfair to comment. Russ Lindsay is trying to get the Porsche out of harm's way as best as he could.
Where is he?
He's down at Club. Tom Roach is up at Stowe Corner, so it must have been at Stowe where the contact occurred. So that is now going to put Hugo Cook, even on corrected times, into the lead of the race without any problem, and it moves this car here, the number 76 McLaren, the non-Evo McLaren of James Wallace, up into second place in the race.
That is such a shame.
Yeah, it's difficult to see how he's ended up there. It must have been contact mid-corner, mustn't it, between the pair of them? Maybe it was a closing speed issue. And
the Porsche's taken a real clunk, because you could see it when it came to rest. It wasn't happy.
No, not at all. Russ trying to get it out of harm's way and avoid parking it in a dangerous spot with less than 3 minutes to go. Over the start-finish line comes our new race leader now. So Hugo Cook leads the way and has a reasonably comfortable advantage over James Wallace. It is now almost 8 seconds that he leads by, 7.9 seconds from the McLaren in second place, and it is going to move up to third overall, an overall podium, a Group GTC car, which is going to be Gilbert Yates. And I don't think, other than last time out in the shortened race at Alton Park, where Dan Dazil finished third, I don't think in a race that's run full distance we've had a Group GTC car on the podium overall.
I can't recall that. Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah, the race was shortened, wasn't it, Alton, because of your incident? So that was a shortened race, but in a full distance race, first time this season for sure we've had a car on the podium in Group GTC. So Hugo Cook goes past the stricken car of Tom Roach, then goes past the stricken car of Russ Lindsay, where the two Orange Racing powered by JMH teammates came together. He is half the way around this lap, and he'll be heading on to his final lap of the race next time through. Who's leading Group GTO still at the moment? That's still the number 28 Lamborghini of Paul Bailey. Who's leading Group GTH at the moment? Phil Carter still. And he's got about 2 seconds gap between himself and the number 42 Mercedes in the hands of Charles Dawson. So Phil Carter doing what he needs to do, Rich.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have a Lambo, my favourite brand, winning both GTC and GTO, and they're both fabulous sounding cars.
Or do we have a Lambo leading? Now, there's your first commentator's curse ever, because as soon as you've said that, straight away, James Owen at the wheel of Ferrari eases past Gilbert Yates.
Sorry, Top Cats. I'll avoid their garage.
Well, it just seemed to slow as he came out of the Maggots and Beckett's complex and up towards Chapel. The Lamborghini just seemed to slow, and there it seemed to really dive down onto its nose as well as he braked for Club. So is that all of a sudden there's some sort of intermittent issue, isn't there? So, yeah, Gilbert Yates is going to try and limp that car home, but is it going to make it home? That's the problem. And that's not going to do a great deal of good for the championship aspirations of Top Cats Racing, because they lie second overall in the championship standings coming into this weekend. So it might be a case of damage limitation, trying to limp the car home.
The good thing about this series is you've got four shots every weekend.
Yeah.
So this is one of, with another 3 to go, so it's not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world, no. 25 points for a win in each one of the groups, providing you've got the requisite number of starters, which is 3 starters per group. It's 25 for a win, 18 for second, 15 for third, and so on. It diminishes. If a group has less starters, then it could be either 18 or 15 points you get for the win, but it really depends on how many starters there are in the group. Here is our Group GTH leader, which is Phil Carter. He's running in 11th place overall, but the car in 10th is just up the road from him, which is Jay Shepherd. But Phil, look in your mirrors, there's a dark Mercedes behind, and that, I'm afraid, is Charles Dawson, who runs second in Group GTH. So ideally, Phil Carter doesn't want to be getting held up here by the Lotus, because he's in danger of losing the lead of the group. What do you do here? You want to push, Rich, because you can't afford to slow down.
You've got to push. Not that I'm an expert. I've only won one race, and that was basically down to my pro and our pit stop strategy, so I can't really advise him, but I think you've got to push.
Yeah, you've won more than me. So Phil Carter feeling the pinch here. He has got the pole sitting Group GTH car of Charles Dawson behind, but our overall race leader, Hugo Cook, is about to weave his way through the right-hander at Luffield for the final time. He'll accelerate towards the checkered flag. He's got Andre Borodin just ahead of him. Is he going to blend out of the throttle? He probably will do. Let that car continue around for a further lap, and it is going to be a win for the Audi. Over the start-finish line comes Hugo Cook and claims his 4th win of the season for himself and the team in the 2023 GT Cup Championship. Waiting the arrival of James Wallace, who comes through to finish in 2nd position at this stage. And who is going to finish in 3rd? It should be the number 26 car of James Owen that will finish in 3rd place, and that would scoop up the win in Group GTC. But we also need to keep an eye on what's going on in Group GTH as well, because Phil Carter was certainly feeling the pressure in the McLaren from the Mercedes that sat behind. And we'll see whether we can pick up on what's going on in Group GTH. Paul Bailey wins Group GTO. Phil Carter does come through and win Group GTH. That put a big smile on the team, Rich. Big smile on your face as well. It's been a long time coming, that first win of the year.
We'll have to buy him a beer tonight, but not too many.
So there we go. So we'll wait for a few more cars to come over the start-finish line. We haven't had the 3rd place car over the start-finish line as yet, so we haven't as yet got our Group GTC winning Ferrari of James Owen through to take the checkered flag. But he should be on his way, and there is Philip Carter. He's come close a few times this season.
Has, yeah. He's just getting better and better, and Mikey and he formed a great partnership.
And thinking back to what happened in Group GTH last year, I don't think Phil claimed a win last year, did he? Or did he claim a win?
I don't remember.
So it could be the first GT Cup Group win.
Yeah. He'll be smiling even more. He was smiling after qualification today. He'll be smiling again. Very pleased for him. Very pleased. And again,
another one of those drivers that is firmly part of the Greystone GT family, and equally as much is one of those again that just is coming on in leaps and bounds, whether it be him, whether it be Ian Campbell, whether it be Mark Hopton, all of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Gilbert Yates, I don't think is going to take the checkered flag, so he tried to bring the Top Cats Lamborghini all the way to the checkered flag, but clearly some sort of problem with that car. A few more cars to take the checkered flag. Andre Borodin and Paul Bailey still to take the checkered flag. I can confirm that the winner of Group GTC was James Owen, who did come through in the Ferrari to finish in 3rd place, and this is going to be the winner of Group GTO, which is Paul Bailey, about to come through now at the wheel of the Kendall Developments Lamborghini. And I think he will be the last car to take the checkered flag, because the only other car that hasn't taken it as yet is Gilbert Yates, and we know he, as we can see there, is stricken out on circuit at the end of the Lewis Hamilton straight and heading in towards Abbey. So should be classified as a finisher still, will be a lap down, but unfortunately it's not going to be the group win that they were hoping for. And that was, just as you said it, Rich, Lamborghini leading that group, and all of a sudden that was when the problems befell him. Welcome to the club.
It didn't take me long to do that, did it?
No, brilliant debut. Right, okay, let's confirm the results for you then. It is a win for Hugo Cook, his 4th of the season for himself and the team, with James Wallace finishing in 2nd place and James Owen winning Group GTC, finishing in 3rd place. Adam Knight was there in 4th, head of Dan Datil in 5th. Seamus Jennings, despite the spin, finished in 6th place. Paul Bailey won Group GTO as he came through to finish in 7th place, head of Andre Borodin in 8th place. Gilbert Yates didn't take the checker flag but will be classified as 9th, and Jay Shepherd wraps up the top 10. 11th place, an important one because it's the first win of the season for Phil Carter in Group GTH. That will please him and the Greystone team. And then it was Charles Dawson in 12th, head of Chris Murphy, James Guest, Tim Docker, John Curry and Doc Bush. David Franklin we didn't see much of, but he came through to finish in 18th place, and he was the last of the finishers because we lost out on circuit Tom Roach and of course Russ Lindsay in the incident that befell the Porsche and the McLaren from the same team. And also Richard Chamberlain making contact with Stephen Walton brought about the retirement of both Porsche and Mercedes as well. So that is the results for what was round 15 of the 2023 GT Cup Championship here at Silverstone.